So hello, my name is Danielle Maupertuis. I'm a vegan, plant-based pastry chef. In our previous issue, I briefly mentioned a new generation of young vegan, plant-based, raw food chefs. And I'm pleased to say among them quite a few young women. And so today I'm very pleased to introduce one of the most talented raw food chefs, Crystal Bonnet. As a pastry chef myself, when I first saw photos of her desserts, I was thrilled by her creativity, her presentation, her sense of finer details, all these things that unfortunately are very rare in vegan or raw pastry. She also created online courses, an online raw dessert chef certification course. And she will tell us how this course is quite unique and exhaustive. So, Crystal, bonjour, how are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really good. And how are you doing?
Oh, I'm very well today. I'm very well today.
Good.
And I'm so pleased to have you here. I was really looking forward to sharing this moment with you, discover more about your journey, your challenges, your experience. So what did you bring to this passion for raw food? Was there any specific event or something special that happened in your life?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like most people who get into raw food get into it because of some kind of life event or an illness or something that they want to heal. And for me, it was, I didn't have a critical illness, but my immune system was really low. And I was living in a really cold place in Canada, Edmonton, Alberta, which is really northern Alberta. And when I had moved there, I was getting sick all of the time and I couldn't figure out why. And I thought that I was eating healthy. And I had realized that I wasn't eating many fresh fruits and vegetables, so I wasn't getting the micronutrients that my body needed to build my immune system, to cleanse and detoxify. And so I was catching everything that was coming my way. And in a 2-month period, I was off work for almost 2 months just because of so many illnesses I was catching. I was catching strep throat, pharyngitis, laryngitis, like you name it, I had it like all at once. And so I was at home sick and I was doing research online about ways I can boost my immune system and just fix my body, because clearly something was out of balance and it was telling me that I needed to do something different. And I came across a raw food cleanse. Now, I wasn't, obviously, most of us eat raw food anyways, because if you're eating fruits and vegetables, then you're eating technically raw vegan food. And at that time, I was not eating a fully plant-based diet. I was eating a pescatarian diet, which means I was still eating seafood and eggs. And so I had done this research online and came across this raw food cleanse, and I downloaded it, and I knew that this is what I had to do. And I had never been really passionate about being in the kitchen or passionate about cooking. I never liked cooking, which is crazy now that it's my like full-time gig and that's all I do in the raw food world. But I never liked cooking, and I realized why when I got into raw food. So because I didn't like cooking, I didn't like preparing any of my own food. So I was eating a lot of packaged and processed things. And so I wasn't eating super healthy. Although I was eating gluten-free and mostly plant-based, you would think that I was eating healthy, but of course there's a lot of vegan or gluten-free food that's really unhealthy, right? And so I got into this raw food cleanse and I started making this food in the kitchen. I went out and bought a Vitamix. You know, I invested in all of the things that I needed. And I fell in love with the food. And I was like, okay, this is how food is supposed to taste. And I mean, it looked so much better because it was so vibrant, had so much color. It was so flavorful. And that's just where my passion came in, but also too for the health side of it and because how it was making me feel. And so I did this raw food cleanse for 3 weeks and I never looked back. I started eating a plant-based diet fully. I started taking a ton of courses, and so that's how it started for me. Yeah, there's the long version.
All right. Yeah, no, very interesting. And so what training did you complete throughout your journey?
So the very first course I took was in 2015, which was the Raw Food Fundamentals course by, at that time, Matthew Kenny had his online raw food courses. And before he had put his courses online, I was actually looking at going into taking the course in California. I was going to go to the physical location and take the course in person because at that time there was nothing online that you could take. And so when he came out with his online course, I think it was that year, I jumped on it right away, and it was a 1-month course. And so I finished that. And then I really got into, and so that was a savory course. And then I really got into chocolate and dessert. So then I started taking a lot of Amy Levin, which I know you probably know because she's in London as well. I took all of her chocolate courses, her raw dessert courses, and then same with, I took a bunch of Russell James courses. And then I took a bunch of courses from Pure Joy Academy, Elena Lev and Caitlin Louise. And then I took a lot of in-person training too, as well in Bali. I took some raw food courses, and then I took an advanced course at Wild Food Cafe in London.
Okay.
And so over the span of 4 years, yeah, I just took as much training as I could. I just wanted to learn it all. And for me, because I didn't have any culinary training at all, I went into it as very beginner, completely blind. And so I just felt like the more knowledge I had, the better. And yeah, it was a really, really good experience. I love learning. Still to this day, I'm taking courses and doing classes.
So, and what drew you creating a business from your love for raw food?
That's a really good question. So I went to Bali in 2017. It was the first time that I had went. I went for a month to go to tour the chocolate farms because I was wanting to start a farmer's market chocolate business and do a bunch of raw food classes. And I came back and I was always really unhappy in my job. I was working in a corporate world, in a corporate office, and I never felt like I fit in. You know, my head was always in the clouds. I was always a really good employee, but I just felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. And then, so of course, when I came back from Bali, I just knew I'm like, I have to do something and practice my passion because I was just really unhappy at that time going back to work. And so I had got into the farmers markets full time, which in Edmonton, Alberta, the farmers markets are very hard to get into. And if you can get into them, like the markets there are huge and you can make a really good living just by selling at the farmers markets. So I got into the farmers market, and so I quit my job. I remember like that day I got accepted into the market. I put in my 2-week notice and I'm like, that's it. I'm going to do this chocolate business. And I did that for a couple of years actually. And while I was doing the markets, I had a lot of people asking me to teach them classes because the vegan scene was just kind of starting there. It was still pretty niche and new in that area. And a lot of people were starting to, you know, also move to the raw food side, and they were really interested in learning how to do this. And so that's how I started teaching, because I had a lot of requests to teach them. And so I started creating classes and doing classes at home. And that's just kind of how it all started, because I fell in love with teaching. I loved the teaching aspect because, you know, I can sell you food and make food for you, but I mean, it's way better to know how to do it yourself at home. So that's kind of how it all spiraled from there.
All right, all right. So let's talk about raw food. What is raw food? Why raw food? Healthy benefits? Maybe environmental concerns?
Yeah, so raw food basically is plant-based whole foods, so nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables that have not been heated above 46 to 48 degrees Celsius. Because there's been a lot of studies done after that temperature, a lot of the enzymes and nutrients start to get degraded. Now, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do to start implementing raw food into your daily diet. And when people hear raw food, a lot of people right away think gourmet, but it doesn't always have to be gourmet. I mean, I don't eat that way all the time. I love to create gourmet dishes and gourmet desserts, but of course, I don't eat that way every day. Even something so simple as a green smoothie, just one green smoothie a day is going to add so many more nutrients, minerals, iron, calcium, all the things that your body needs in order to start building your immune system, repairing your cells, getting the hydration that your body needs. And so, yeah, I always tell people, like, just start with that, just one green smoothie a day. And what I like to do, because I don't eat 100% raw, I love doing like a raw cooked fusion. My diet is about 80 to 90% raw, depending on the season. So when my meal, I love to have like one big meal a day, and that will be like a raw cooked fusion. So I'll have some like steamed potatoes and vegetables mixed in with a nice big salad, maybe some like flax crackers from the dehydrator, and maybe like a dip or a pate that I've made. I mean, so there's so many different things that you can do. And yeah, just overall, raw food is just going to give you more vitality, is just going to make you feel lighter, and just overall healthier.
So what advice would you give to somebody who wants to start a raw food a diet, if a diet is the right word to use?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would call it diet. I mean, I wouldn't really say lifestyle, because I mean, yeah, definitely diet for sure, because it's a way of eating. So like I said, you know, just incorporating at least one green smoothie a day, like just start with that and then increasing slowly. I always don't recommend doing everything cold turkey or jumping in straight 100%, just because you can have a lot of negative side effects. Your body will start detoxing if you started eat, especially if you're coming off a standard American diet or a diet that's really full of cooked processed foods, and you went straight to 100% raw diet. You're going to have a lot of detoxing effects. And what's going to happen is you're going to have these negative feelings, and then you're going to go back to eating a lot of cooked and processed food because you're going to think that it's not working for you. So I always say to start slow. So just, you know, start with one raw meal a day, whether it's a green smoothie or a salad, and just slowly start increasing more and more every day. And if you're eating animal products, then slowly start taking out one animal product at a time. Even if that's like the first week, remove dairy, the next week, remove eggs, the next week, remove full meat. So definitely start slow and just listen to your body. And there's a lot of, you know, prep that you can do on hand where you can make a meal super quick just by like prepping all of your fruits and vegetables before, washing all of your lettuce, keeping it in the fridge, making a dressing that will last for 3 to 5 days in the fridge, making a dip that will last. Yeah, so many different things that you can do. So.
Thank you for the advice. So what would you say to people who fear to spend too much time in the kitchen cooking raw food?
Yeah, so definitely that's one big stigma around raw, is people think that it's a lot of prep and that it takes a lot of time to make this food. When actual fact, if you do all of your prep and you put everything together, it's there and ready for you. You don't have to wait for it to be cooked, right? Like if I was cooking something in the oven or on the stove, I'm having to wait for it to be done. And it's the same amount of prep if you were going to be cooking something. Just like if you were dehydrating something and you leave it in the dehydrator, even though it takes 24 hours to dehydrate, you're not sitting there watching it for 24 hours. You put it in the dehydrator and you go and do your stuff and get it out of the dehydrator 24 hours later. So it's really all about planning and organizing, definitely with raw food. For me, when I go grocery shopping, when I'm grocery shopping, unless I'm recipe testing, when I'm grocery shopping just for myself, I have no idea. I know like the staples that I'm going to get from the store, but I like to go to the grocery store and see what is the freshest. And then I'll get, I'm like, wow, like, hey, these vegetables look, and whatever is kind of in season in there, right? And then just kind of plan my meals that way. And then I'll come home and I'll prep everything. So even if I bought lettuce or kale or chard, I'll wash it all. I'll dry it in a salad spinner and I'll put it in containers and put it in the fridge. So I just have it ready to grab and go. I'll prep a ton of vegetables, like make a salad dressing again, like I said, that can store in the fridge for a few days. And if I want to make some kind of like pate or dip, then I can have that in the fridge for a few days. And then are my dehydrated items. And I realize not everyone has a dehydrator, but it's good to have definitely if you're eating a lot of raw, because it adds a lot of comfort foods those comfort tastes that you miss, like crackers and chips and that sort of thing. So, and dehydrated items can stay fresh. I put them in the freezer for like 1 to 2 months. So you can like prep a bunch ahead of time.
Yeah, I totally agree with this. In my courses, I always insist as well upon the organization. There is no need to spend the whole day in your kitchen while you have a party, of course.
Exactly. I love that.
Now, talking about your online courses, you created an online raw dessert chef certification course.
Mm-hmm.
What makes this course so unique, specific, different? And what can the students expect from this course?
Okay, thank you for asking that. Yeah, so when I was creating a raw dessert course, I knew that I wanted to create an online raw dessert course, but I didn't want to offer something that had already been offered or that was already out there. I wanted to do something different. And I know that at that time, there's a lot of raw food chef certification courses online, but there was no courses just dedicated to a raw dessert chef certification with all of the information that you would need to understand how to make these recipes instead of just giving out the recipes. So I wanted to create something that was definitely unique. And I wanted to create something with full support, because when I had taken a lot of courses online, I just felt like I wasn't getting the support that I needed or that I wanted. And in order to do that, I came up with a way for the students to submit assignments for every single module. So they have to take a photo and write a description of every recipe that they make. So they have to submit assignment for every category, for every module in the course. Plus there's a knowledge assessment for every module as well. So they're going to be testing what they've learned and see how much they've learned. And then at the end of the certification course, there is a final project where they have to come up with 3 raw dessert recipes. So basically a raw dessert menu of their own recipes. And they learn through the course how to create a recipe and how to be creative with that, how to write a recipe professionally. Because a lot of the students who take my course are wanting to start a raw dessert business or already have a raw dessert business. So they're going to learn. The course takes you through everything that you would need to know to understand the ingredients that you're working with, the equipment that you're working with, why, we're using cacao butter over coconut oil, or why we're using Irish moss paste, or why we use agar in this. So it's really like understanding. I think it's really important, instead of me just putting a recipe up online and anyone can create that recipe, but unless you know why we're using the ingredients that we're using, then you're never going to be able to go off and create your own recipe. So I wanted to give people like the skills and the tools and the knowledge to be able to do that.
Oh, that's great. You also recently launched Nut-Free Raw Dessert Academy, right?
Yes. Yeah, Nut-Free Raw Cake Academy. Yeah,
so
what
is the specificity of this course?
So when I was actually getting a lot of requests over the last couple of years for nut-free raw cakes and just nut-free raw recipes in general, because raw food usually contains a lot of nuts, right?
All right.
And especially in the raw dessert world, cashews are really, really widely used. Just to get that creamy consistency in a cake or you making a raw cheesecake. And I really, at that time last year, I really needed a challenge in the kitchen. Everything was just getting way too easy for me. So I just started coming up with nut-free raw recipes because I'm like, I know it's once you know the ingredients, it's pretty simple to do, but nut-free raw cakes haven't really been really widely done yet. They're not super popular unless you're using coconut meat. And coconut meat is really hard to get in a lot of places in the world. And so I wanted to come up with other techniques that you can use without using cashews, without using all coconut meat. And so that's how this course was born, because I had developed these nut-free raw cakes and I was having so much fun making them and experimenting in the kitchen. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with these recipes yet. And it just kind of came to me. I was like, I should be creating a course on this. I mean, I feel like the nut-free niche is going to be growing, especially because there's been so many people who are more and more people are developing nut allergies. And I really wanted to make something inclusive that everybody could take. And also too, a lot of people who have businesses have a lot of requests for nut-free as well. And so, yeah, that's how this course was born.
And that's really interesting because I think many of our readers or followers will be interested in this nut-free desserts. Crystal, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, people should not be so scared of the raw, raw food, the whole raw food culinary industry. And really, these recipes are not super difficult to make. So I shouldn't say scared, I mean intimidated. A lot of people can be really intimidated by like gourmet raw recipes or gourmet raw desserts. And they think that, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to make that. But I mean, if you have the right instruction, the right training, then you're going to be able to create these dishes, no problem. And if you're wanting to start eating more raw food in your daily diet, just take that plunge. And like I said, plan and just get, creative in the kitchen, and you're going to have a lot of fun with it.
That's great. Crystal, it was a pleasure sharing this moment with you. I wish you all the best, and maybe we speak soon again.
Yes, first, thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And it's so nice to connect with you.
You're very welcome.
And you're doing so many amazing things as well. So thank you for all you do for everybody and everything that you're offering. It's really needed right now.
Thank you very much. My story is a little bit different because I have a very strong pastry chef background. So I have been a pastry chef for many years. And recently, when in 5-star hotels where I worked, vegan people came asking for an afternoon tea, and we had to say, oh, sorry, we just have a fruit salad or a fruit sorbet. First, as a as a pastry chef, I was really frustrated because I couldn't offer anything decent. So this was my first step into vegan pastry before I became a vegan myself. And because I have this fine dining pastry background, I really tried to apply this to my range of vegan desserts. And hopefully people love it. Thank you very much.
It's amazing, you know, and thank you for taking that step to do that, because a lot of people would just turn a blind eye and not take the time to learn and dedicate themselves to learning how to do vegan pastry. So thank you so much for doing that. And yeah, everything you do is 5-star. So you can tell that you were working in like 5-star hotels. And I love that you have that background. See, I wish that I had that professional background as well, because it's good to have that traditional culinary training as well.
Yeah, you have so many skills as well. Don't worry. So thank you for this conversation.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I hope everyone enjoys it.
I hope so as well. Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, have a good night.